Welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly mini-sode where we dig into the things that we've been watching and I believe reading recently. I am Terry.
And
Wow,
I'm
what was
Mary
that?
Beth. I loved it. I love the flourish, the dramatic flourish. It was very good. But I'm Mary Beth, and we're chatting this week about Dracula on a boat, an outlandish Taiwanese ghost story, a creepy possession story, a scary, sexy, cool Kyle Gallner, and bizarre anime.
Bizarre anime. I am very curious about that one because I think it's probably what you tweeted about, and
Oh yeah.
it looks
Oh yeah.
wild. But let's start with something a little bit more normal than that. Let's talk about Dracula on a boat.
So Dracula on a boat, Dracula wet and loving it, Dracula all
Dracula
the
wet and loving it. Ah!
someone said that's from the internet. That's not an original. I cannot claim responsibility for that one. But I find it hysterical,
That
and I
is
knew
the
that you would
best
love it.
title.
That is, I think Devon Taylor might have actually tweeted that, but I'm not sure.
That
but
is amazing.
I know. But the last voyage of the Demeter. I meant to talk about this last week, and I did not, so I'm talking about it this week because I think it's pretty good. I do not think it is an amazing movie, but I enjoyed it. Did you see it?
No, I
Terry?
have not. I wanted to see
Okay.
it, but then I played Baldur's Gate.
What? You?
I know.
But so last voyage of the Demeter, it is based on the captain's log excerpt from Bram Stoker's Dracula about the crew of the Demeter who are all picked off one by one by Dracula on a boat going to England. And so like it's hard for this movie because we know this is like a section of a famous novel. So like we all know it's going to happen. So I applaud trying to do that though, because it is a really cool standalone story. It's a gothic haunted house monster story on a boat instead of in a house, and like in that regard, I really enjoyed it. Javier Botet is Dracula, and he's really fucking good as like a Nosferatu like creature. It's not like a guy; it's a gross bat creature. The problem I think comes from tonal issues for me where like it wants to be this super gory action movie but then it also wants to be a slow gothic horror and it doesn't hit that balance consistently. And I think that's where it struggles, and I don't necessarily like it's not a bad tone, but I feel like it feels like there was a lot of push and pull about how restrained versus how gory to be. And I don't really understand like who wanted it more one way or the other, but I just know that it felt like it really wanted to be this like cool actiony thing, but also very gothic, and it didn't know how the screenplay just like didn't meld all of the things together perfectly. I still had a really good time with it, but I think because it's so goth, it's like got the Crimson Peak problem. Like it's so gothic, people don't gravitate towards that really. Like
Yeah.
people just don't, which is a bummer because I think like Andre Overdahl's an incredible director. You know, he did Troll Hunter, Autopsy of Jane Doe,
Yep.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Like he's really talented, and you see his talent here. Like there's no denying he's a good director. Like it's beautifully shot. Like the boat feels both like claustrophobic and really like vast. There's some really good set pieces. It's really mean. So, like, it's trying, but there's just something about it that feels so held back and, like, sanitized in a way that is, like... It feels very much like a studio film in that regard. Like, I don't know. It felt like it was almost something, like, really cool, but they had to hold back a little bit.
Gotcha.
For, like, marketability, I guess. And I think that hurt it. And that, I mean, like, I just think... it could have been way grosser and way less like gothic mystery on a boat. Because we all fucking knew it was Dracula. So like why try to make it as deep of a mystery as it tries to? I don't know. Like I think it's cursed by its source material. And I think they did a really good job with what they had. I just think it's hard to do that. Like with what this is, an excerpt of a book. Like, it's weird. It's cool. I mean, and again, like, sorry.
It's an excerpt of a book, and it's playing with a mystery that the viewers know, right? So like
Yeah.
we're ahead of the people on the boat. We're like, okay, we know it's a vampire, but I'm guessing from what I've seen of like the critiques, it's like we're miles ahead of the people on the boat, and so that sort of like creates this weird narrative dissonance with like we're just like, come on, get to it. You got to realize this is a vampire. So I can understand that, but also at the same time, it's like I want when it was described as like alien on a boat, I'm like, that sounds perfect. I want to watch that.
And see, the thing is, like, it kills at that. Like, ha ha ha, literally. Like, there's some really good stalking sequences on the boat deck, and like the way they use such a small space is really smart. Like, they use the single location of the boat really well too. So I think that, like, on a technical level, it's really effective. I just think the script's just, like, I think it's a really hard thing to adapt for what it is and what people already know about it. So, maybe, but again, like, if you... Long. I think it definitely could have been shorter. Like, it definitely feels like they could have truncated a lot of, like, the mystery, what is it, to more of, like, fighting the vampire. Because the action pieces are really good. I just think they try too hard to make it this mystery when you're like, we already know the answer. Like, I don't think... Right. You've shown us in the trailer. We know it's based on Dracula. We know Dracula lives to get to shore. So, like, right. It's really hard. Like, no wonder it was in development hell for so long.
Yeah.
But, again, like... Despite that, I still think it's really well done. I think the acting is really good. I think, like, Corey Hawkins is awesome as the lead. David Dastmalchian always is great with his weird Russian accent. Like, I think it's a fun movie. I think it's a good, entertaining, weird, horror mystery. Yeah, it's a little slow, but, I think people are giving it, a really hard time, and I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say. I don't think it's, good. I think it is, the perfect definition of an okay summer movie. And, cool. That's not a bad thing.
No. I want to watch it. I'm excited to see it.
I just think maybe Dracula is not a thing anymore, you know? I'm sorry to say it, I love Dracula. But, Renfield, they have to commit. You have to go full sex. We gotta go full 1992 Bram Stoker's Dracula or bust. You know what I mean? That set the bar so high. You gotta just commit. You can't... and I liked Renfield. I thought Renfield was fun. I thought it was a good, entertaining, weird-ass thing. But I really think we gotta go full sex or full monster. And that's why I like Demeter, because at least Demeter goes full monster. I want... a new full sex vampire movie, Dracula, horny and loving it shit.
Dracula, horny and loving it.
If we're gonna keep doing Dracula, let's just go full sex. I mean, but that's just me. We all know what I like in my horror movies. Not all the time.
Same.
But sometimes. Come on. Anyway, so that's Last Voyage of the Demeter. If you're into cool gothic stuff and gross vampires, you'll have a great time with this. If you love nasty vampires, you'll really love this. So yeah, give it a try in the theaters if you want. I think it's a good... I didn't watch it in theaters, and I wish I had. It's definitely a good theatrical experience. So go give it a try and help us make sure Andre Ovidal keeps getting good movies, and that one day he'll get a really good bloody movie that he can really... show off with. I don't even know if it's related, but an outlandish Taiwanese ghost story. Very excited for whatever this is about to be.
So I contemplated whether to talk about this one or not, because I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it.
Okay.
But also, otherwise, you would hear me waxing poetic about Baldur's Gate 3 again, because literally that and the other movie I have to bring is all I have done literally since it came
Terry
out.
Menard.
Seriously. You would get all weird anecdotes that have no connection to anything that people would understand unless you're playing the game, because it's a wild one. So I found this movie because I believe it was Rocco Thompson who who works for Rue Morgue on Twitter. He posted a video of something, and I was like, ooh, this looks interesting. And it is a Taiwanese movie about a homophobic straight guy, police officer, who ends up getting ghost married to a gay guy. And the movie is called Marry My Dead Body, and it's on Netflix. And I think it's because of how much, like, progressive queer movies I have seen over the last, like, 20 odd years, that it feels very regressive in what it's doing. But I also realize that I don't think I am the audience for this movie. And so it is about this, the opening of the movie, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna like this, because it was very homoerotic. It was in a gym, and guys are working out and checking each other out. One guy is like nodding to another guy, and he follows him into the shower, where it's turned out that the guy is a cop. And
Oh, okay. Was he trying to like lure? Was he trying to like trick him into gay set? Like, get like public.
yep. And so
I mean,
then
Japanese sexuality is such a weird thing. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
yeah, so this happens, and then he is heard calling him gay guy and being like homophobic. And so then that becomes an issue, and he kind of gets he gets in trouble for it on the police force, and then he's on like a drug deal where the drug dealer has like dumped his stuff, and he is sent to go pick up it. And one of the things he picks up is a red envelope, and the red envelope is basically like a marriage proposal that he has to now take for this gay ghost that his grandma, who's very progressive, wanted him to be married, and he was planning on it in life before his life was tragically cut short. And so now this homophobic police officer is ghost married, which is a real thing, by the way, ghost married to this gay guy. So I had to Google this. In Taiwanese culture, there is this, and it's a little problematic in spots because there have been like some bad things that have happened from it, but because of like, wait, he's not just ghost married to a gay man, but the drug dealer was the gay. Oh, no, the drug dealer was not the gay man. This unrelated, unrelated to, but like he picks up this letter thinking it was drugs that the drug dealer had dropped, but it was actually a letter.
It's not drugs. It's your new husband, motherfucker.
It's your new husband. Yes, and okay, so. Yes, so he is now ghost married to this gay guy because the gay guy's grandma wanted him to find a husband. And the first part of the movie is sort of like this cop trying desperately to not accept the fact that he is now married to a gay guy, gay ghost. And then it becomes like, yeah, gay ghost married Kate, absolutely. And then it becomes like a police procedural where he's trying to solve the murder of the gay ghost so that the gay ghost can go be reincarnated. And it's wild, it's outlandish, it's definitely not as queer as I was hoping it would be. I was kind of hoping that there would be like a turn where the gay guy or the straight man realizes that, you know, he isn't straight. But again, we're talking about a Taiwanese movie, and I feel like it's a very regressive type of thoughts on queer people over there. I don't really know the politics, but from everything that I've seen, it's not necessarily as openly discussed. So I feel like this movie has its heart in the right place. I don't feel like I am the right audience. And it's also very melodramatic in spots.
Yeah, a lot of like Taiwanese, like Chinese, Taiwanese, like those kinds of like mainstream movies are like very mellow, or like have it. There are a lot of the ones that aren't like action or can be like really melodramatic. Not all of the time, but there's definitely a genre of those, and it sounds like you might have fallen into one.
Yeah, and it was like the movie is 2 hours and 10 minutes long, and boy, the last 30 minutes, I was like, I thought the movie was almost over, and I paused it, and I was like, oh my god, there's 30 more minutes. But I was invested, and I had to see how it was going to end. It's not a great movie. I don't think, again, that I am the audience, but I did want to throw it out there. It's on Netflix, and it's a thing I watched.
Cool. Awesome. Good. Great. Love that for you. Wait,
Yeah.
how did you, like, discover it? Did you just, like, see it on Netflix and you're like, might as well try it out?
Rocco had shared a
Oh,
video.
Rocco recommended it. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, Rocco, I believe it was Rocco, shared a video of basically the gay guy popping out from underneath the straight man's legs and being, "Hi, hubby," and then going, "Ooh," when he looks at his dick.
Ah, cute. Okay. Cool.
And I was like,
Cool.
What is this? I must watch this. And I wish there was more of that. But here we are. Anyway, that's Marry My Dead Body. Wild ass name. Let's continue along with this trend. Not at all. A creepy possession story?
Yeah, so I got Kindle Unlimited because there's a lot of really good like indie horror on Kindle Unlimited, and it's pretty cheap. And I've been reading a lot more recently, so I thought, fuck it, like I'll try it out. There's a bunch of books on there that I want to read and try out, and this sounds like it'll be a good way to experience all those books. And one of the authors that I was really excited to start reading, who has a lot of books on Kindle Unlimited, her name is Ania Alborn.
Okay.
And she's pretty prolific, but she's written books like Brother. What are the other ones that aren't the one that I read? Come on, motherfucker, load faster. I look like a dick. Yeah, Brother, The Bird Eater, The Neighbors, and this book I've read of hers most recently is called Seed. And this is the first book of hers I've ever read. And so this is a Southern Gothic possession book. And I was quite interested. I've heard about it quite a lot, about on like book talk and stuff, about it being like super creepy and disturbing. It is not that disturbing, but maybe I'm broken. But it's still pretty creepy. It's takes place in Louisiana, and this family, a father, mother, 2 younger daughters, get into a car accident, and after the car accident, they're all okay, but then the 6-year-old daughter, Charlie, starts acting really weird. And as, you know, they're trying to understand what's going on with her, Jack starts remembering remembering things from his past about, like, this happened to me when I was a kid, and I can't ever tell anyone about it because I'm not allowed to, like, whatever force is, like, around me won't let me. And basically it's this like helpless story of a guy who dealt with his possession as a kid, watching his kid deal with possession, and him trying to pretend it's not happening, and trying to, and like he knows it's happening, and he's like, my family is going to be destroyed, and he can't do anything about it. And it's him basically like watching his family fall apart as he's just like, cool, like I don't know what to do to stop it because my family couldn't stop it with me. So like it's pretty fucked up in that regard. Yeah, and like it in some regards it's like a possession story, so it's like, it's, you know, there's scratching in the wall. Some of it I just got a little bit bored of because I get bored of possession stories. It's like, oh, there's scratching in the walls, the kids are getting kept awake. Like it's kind of like paint by the numbers in that area, but then when it's the dad thinking about his childhood and how it links to his daughters, that's when it's really interesting. Like this kind of familial bond and like the passing down of possession as like a generational thing is really cool and really fucked up, because they talk a little bit about how it might have happened, but there's really not a lot of explanation, which I love. Like that's what I love in these kinds of like possession narratives. It's like there's not some like big moment of possession or trauma, and there isn't like this epic battle between good and evil. It's kind of just like a family got picked. So it has that kind of Dark and the Wicked vibe a little bit into it. It just feels like these people got picked, and like their lives are just getting absolutely fucked up by something because it wants to. And that's where it's really dark. And it doesn't fall into the like exorcism-y kind of thing. It does fall into the trope, like kind of some similar tropes of like, she throws up, she's a little bitch to her sister, but there's moments when it feels much darker than your typical possession story. So I really liked it. And especially if you like those kinds of stories even more, you'll really enjoy it. It definitely, the ending is pretty dark, and I liked it for the most part. I think, just again, I'm not the biggest religious horror person, but again,
same.
Allborn tries to kind of not make it as religious and more just like something is fucking with his family rather than it being like a good versus evil, God versus the devil kind of thing. So, yeah. So, yeah. That's Seed, if you are so interested. By who again? Ania Allborn.
Okay.
So, and it was a pretty quick read. Most of her books are under 200 pages, and they're really good. And they're like, that was one that I read in like 2 days because I was like so compelled by it. I didn't realize how much of it I had read. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this is like not at all exact. Like this is again swinging in another direction with sexy, scary, cool Kyle Gallner, and I think I know what this is, but tell me more.
Yeah, I know you've seen this, and I had been really excited to watch it, and it came out on VOD last Tuesday, I believe, and I had wanted to watch it last week, and then Baldur's Gate happened, so I finally sat down and watched Carter Smith, friend of the show, former guest of the show, one of my favorite people, I love him, directed this movie called The Passenger, which stars Kyle Gallner and Johnny Birchtold, who you might recognize from a bunch of like his social media videos. I think he's big on TikTok as well.
He is. I did not know that. Weird. Especially because the TikTok videos are like funny and this movie is not funny.
No, it's not. Although I did find some darkly comedic moments in it. It's not. Yeah, but it's definitely not a comedy. But it is about Johnny Birchtold plays a guy named Randy Bradley, who everyone thinks his name is Bradley because his name tag says Bradley. And he works in this, like, burger joint with Benson, who's played by Kyle Gallner, and a bunch of other kind of teenager dicks that are working there at a fast food place. And one day, Randy is having a bad day, and his coworkers are treating him really shitty. He's very quiet. He doesn't really stand up for himself. And Benson goes out to his car, grabs a gun, comes inside, and starts shooting everybody. And it was at this point where I was watching this with Cass, and if you follow me on Twitter, you might have seen me retweet my roommate's response, or retweet my roommate who was quoting me as saying, boy, we really just are bags of blood, because the opening, there's a lot of bloodletting in this, and as Benson is dragging a body down a hallway and leaving like this horrible trail of goo, I was like, yeah, we really are just blood bags walking around. So this happens, and then Randy becomes an unwitting passenger on Benson's journey through. He realizes they have probably 7 to 8 hours before the police are going to start looking for people, and it becomes sort of like a joyride. I'm using that loosely in quotations.
It's a road movie. It's like a buddy road movie. It's like a fucked up buddy road movie. It's really good.
And I was blown away by it because Kyle plays a character that you're at once like, I was attracted to him, I was afraid of him, I was like empathetic towards him. He plays there is a lot of layers going on in his performance. I think this is definitely a movie that shows his range as someone who can embody quite a different amount of emotions in someone that is from a small town who obviously has had a rough life and sees some of himself maybe in Randy, and it wants to break him free of probably the same kind of life that Benson has. And you get that kind of like feeling, while at the same time he is an absolute sociopath and murdering a bunch of people. And I was surprised by this movie.
I was too. I get goosebumps thinking about this movie because it's like this really beautiful like indictment of toxic masculinity, but also a beautiful story about male friendship and like mentorship. And it's just like all kind of fucked up, but it's beautiful at the same time. And like there's this beautiful balance between like villainy and empathy that I think like I don't think I've seen in a very long time in a movie. Like, you can tell that Benson is so fucked up and so sad and has only really ever been shown unkindness. And he's trying to show kindness in the way that he thinks kindness is supposed to be shown. And it's like this beautifully sad and heartbreaking look at two guys just like trying to figure out where they are in the world, and like Benson trying to help Randy not become like him because he's doomed, but maybe he can help. It's just like,
it's so tragic and sad and scary.
And like Carter found the script and like said most of that was on the page. Like the hold on a second.
Jack
the
Stanley
writer
wrote it, who also
Jack Stanley wrote it. Yeah, so Jack Stanley wrote it, and like you know, Carter said it was just like a beautiful script, and like a lot of it was already there. So like shout out to Jack Stanley for writing like a devastatingly beautiful script, and then also like Johnny and Kyle just like taking that and just making the most like fascinating, complex male friendship. And like while I wanted them to kiss, I'm glad they didn't at the same time. You know, and I said this to Carter when I interviewed him. I'm like, I always want it to be gay, but I also appreciate keeping some of these things platonic and showing that like it's not always repressed it's not always homophobia or like repressed homosexuality that leads people to be violent. Because I think like you could very easily fall into this like, oh, repressed homosexuality is what drove Benson to be like this, and it's like, but this movie isn't trying to say that, which I love. It's just like, no, this guy just like has had a fuck ton of trauma, and like the world has failed him, and this is what happens. Like, I also think it's in a great movie about how the patriarchy fucks everybody up too. You know what I mean? Like, it's like not subtle and subtle if at the same time. Like, it's not saying that, but when you're watching it and like you kind of think about where this fits into like discussions of people in the world, it is so fascinating about how it fits into what happens to boys that are like boys who are treated like you have to be this particular way. Yeah. And if you're not, like, you're fucked. And like it's beautiful. It's fucked, but it's beautiful. It's wild.
I'm glad you said that, because I too wanted them to kiss, because there's definitely like there's a tension there, but it like I was happy that it's like a fucked up platonic relationship, but a platonic relationship nonetheless between two men that, as you said, digs into toxic masculinity, digs into these tropes that they've probably been raised with their entire lives, and Kyle's character Benson in the most violent way kind of breaking that cycle in some fucked up sort of way. It's so interesting. It's so, and like you said, like it's about it's showing how people can, like, it's showing a different way of breaking the cycle that's not pretty. And I do also love that about like sometimes the world is fucked and cruel, and like it may feel like the only way you can do that is just be cruel right back, and like I'm not saying that's the right answer, but I think that's like part of this movie is like grappling with that. It's like, it's grappling with very uncomfortable questions.
It is, and I love that though. Like, it's not, and it's also not giving easy answers. I think it's showing that like there's no one cure, and this is like, it's kind of like, I don't think it's saying like compassion is the answer, but it is kind of showing like it's not as simple. Like, not all of this is as simple as like you're crazy. It's like a lot of other systemic things. And I love how it keeps a lot of things very vague, though, and never tries to blame one thing for what happens. It's never trying to point a finger at one trauma, which I love, too. It's not trying to just be like, this person was traumatized. Like, it's a lot of that. I'm not saying it's not. But I think it's, again, more nuanced than trying to just pin it on one bad thing that happened to a kid, and more as like, sometimes the systems just build and build and build. You can't keep trying to pick one small thing to blame it all and to be the scapegoat. Like, you need to kind of see this as a wider issue. And this movie is grappling with that in a really cool way that I just hope more people see. This is one of those movies that like it's on like MGM Plus and the Blumhouse thing. So it's on
also available
demand.
to rent and buy.
Yeah.
I bought it. So it is out there on VOD to buy as well or rent.
Yeah, so I definitely would encourage, like, it's a hard watch, but it's the year of Carter Smith.
Hell yeah, it
year
is.
Year of queer horror continue. So it's just cool to see Carter continue to get work. Like he makes movies like Swallowed and then gets the Blumhouse bucks to make this. But also, it was really cool because he said he didn't like any of the scripts they brought him, so he went to Jack Stanley and like found the script and was like, this is what I want to make, and convinced them to make it. He said it took a while to convince them, but he's glad that he did, and I'm glad he did too. It's one of those big risk movies that I think like more studios need to take a chance on things like this and like treat their audiences with more intelligent. I think, anyway, I'm gonna get on my soapbox about like how we don't treat like people like they're like intelligent enough to understand things like this, but anyway, check it out. It's really fucking good.
It is.
If you watch anything this year, maybe you should watch The Passenger. It's like one of my favorites of the year so far.
It's fantastic.
Fuck you, Carter, having 2 of your movies on my top 10 maybe this year. You fucking
I know, that's
asshole.
what I was just gonna say. I was like, that's not fair. Taking up 2
That's
spots
not
on my
fair.
top 10 list, probably. Who do you think you are, dude?
And it's not just because we're friends, because I do actually sometimes go into things with a harder eye. No offense to anyone, but I just don't want. I'm always like, I have to be tougher on them because I don't want them to think I'm just being nice as their friend. Well, but then they make really good movies, and you're like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do now?
I mean, it's sort of like I did have some issues with the last. I feel like it's grown on me a little bit more, but like I did have some issues with the last act of Swallowed being a little campy, like a jarring change of pace. So like, I'm not saying this because I like him and he's been on the show before, and I think he's a wonderful human being. This movie just really spoke to me. So go watch it, The Passenger.
Yes, please.
Speaking of sexy cool Kyle Gallner, bizarre anime.
Yeah, so we're gonna end this one on a really bizarre note. I have started the new anime Undead Murder Farce on Crunchyroll, and it is a goddamn hoot and a half.
Sorry, say that again. Undead
Murder Farce.
Murder Farce. Okay.
So it takes place in the
these
1800s, like late 1800s in Japan, and this guy is half human, half oni, which is a Japanese demon essentially, and he lives in a world where like. He lives in a world where like all the gothic creatures are real. Like vampires are real, like everything. It's like a gothic like wet dream basically. Like Sherlock Holmes is real, fucking Dracula's real. It's like gothic out the wazoo. And so
you just
he is
interest.
Oh god, I hate it when my boss messages me in the middle of things and I'm like, it is 8 p.m., you dumb bitch. But anywho, so he is contacted by a woman appears and she's holding something covered in a sheet. And there's like, it becomes unveiled that this is a servant of a woman who is just a severed head. And she has contacted this man Oni hybrid to help find the rest of her body. And what the show is basically basically it's three little freaks solving gothic mysteries as they travel to Europe to figure out where her body is. And it's really good. Again, I've only watched a couple episodes, it's brand new, but like it's so fun. It's so weird. Like it seems so self-serious at first and then like keeps going and it's just like so bizarre, but I love it. It's like the first mystery is like a family of vampires and they're trying to figure out who like killed the mother vampire, and they're all like, who the fuck are these people? It's like the guy is just like a fucking moron who just giggles to himself all the time, a decapitated head in a bird cage, and then a maid who has a gun wrapped in fabric who walks around with this giant gun wrapped in fabric. Like it is the most anime ass shit of my life, and it is so good. It's really good.
So is it coming out weekly or
yes
the entire okay?
Yeah, it's coming out weekly. I think we're about we're kind of behind. We started watching it a little bit after. We usually stagger it so we have more to like binge. But yeah, this is the first season, and I think there's like 6 episodes so far.
This sounds like a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie.
It is. Like, as soon as I read what it was, I was like, oh, I am going to love everything about this. Yeah, okay, there's 7 episodes out so far.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like it's gothic anime. It's like anime folklore meets gothic, like British gothic literature, which is like everything I've ever wanted, plus like a wise talking kind of hot anime boy and like a sultry decapitated head in a cage. It rules.
You're speaking my language. I've seen a few anime, but I have not like dove completely in, and yet the more you talk about it, the more I want to explore it more. It's on Crunchyroll, is that what you said?
It's on Crunchyroll, and this is the thing. Anime, there are all different kinds, and it's just it just has, I feel like anime has so often a permission to just go like balls to the wall in so many different ways. And you watch it and you're like, yeah, that's anime for you. And then you talk about it and you're like, oh, I forget that people are not used to just like every weird thing happening. And you're like, oh yeah, no, that's just anime. Like, that's just normal. She's carrying a giant weapon around all the time. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward anime bullshit to me. But yeah, it's just like so fun so far. And like, it's got gore. It's like, it's got horror aspects, but it's definitely like it's like a pitch black like comedy more than horror, I would call it. Which I like, though. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's just, it's a good time. I'm going to get you an anime. It's working.
Just need time.
Well, I like Paprika just said, I think there's something to be said about risks that are taken in other cultures' media compared to our relatively safe shit. And, like, I agree with that. Like, anime is always doing the weird shit. Like, and animation in general gives you, I've talked about this a million times, I just love the flexibility animation gives you, especially in horror, in terms of, like, body horror and what you can do to the body, and, like, actual human physics don't matter. And things can be, like, super crazy cool. And I think, particularly in Japan, a lot of their animation is just, like, they value animation so much more highly than here. So there's so much more of it. Though. Oh god, that's a whole other conversation that I don't have time to go into the issue, like working issues with anime and manga artists in Japan. That is a horrible situation and people have died. And I'm not kidding, like a lot of people have died from how stressed out and like fucked up that industry is. But I mean, like, great, everyone works under terrible conditions. Isn't that fun? Isn't capitalism great? But what I'm trying to say here is that animation from Japan is really fucking gorgeous, and you should watch more of it if you can. People, I'm on my high horse, but people I feel are like, anime. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Don't say that. Like, there's such cool stuff happening in anime, and I think it has, like, not as much, I don't think, but just, like, the weird reputation people have with it. It's just, like, yeah, it's some of it's true, but, like, you're also just missing out on some really cool stuff if you're thinking it. You're also missing Reborn as a vending machine. Now I wander of a dungeon. You know, like, there's, like, push and pull here. Like, there's push and pull. Duality of anime, come on.
Duality of anime, which is
and like,
really
again,
funny because like before we started recording, I was on TikTok and I started seeing people blind react to something called mignon or like filet mignon, and apparently it is a boy love anime that has been released in 5-minute increments, so it's only like an hour and 7 minutes long. It's on Vimeo, so I added it to my Vimeo watch list because the reactions of people watching this were
wait, what is it called?
Mignon, like filet mignon.
Oh, like filet mignon.
Mm-hmm. And it's new. I think it's like just came out.
Is it gay?
Oh, it's boy love. It's
oh,
BL.
it's like
yeah. Which normally isn't like my thing because they're usually very like twinky, but I'm willing to give it a shot.
Oh boy. boy! Oh no. Oh, is this about to become something that I am unfortunately obsessed with? Because that's gonna really be an issue for me. I just pulled up the teaser and I'm like, this is Mary Beth's stupid brand of weird shit.
I'm gonna have
likes.
to send, if I can find the TikToks, I'm gonna send it because people are like literally like you hear the sounds and it's like, what is happening?
Oh, you have to pay $1 for it.
Yeah.
I guess I'll pay for the gay shit. Fine. Fine, I'll pay for queer animated content. Fine, I'll pay for gay shit. Oh no, god damn it, Terry, you might have caused an issue with Mary Beth watching gay boys as vampires making out in the rainy streets of Tokyo. Fuck. Alright.
Yep. Yep. I'll be watching it. I know I will.
Next week we're just going to be like, all right, so we watched pornography. Let's talk about it. Oh man, they really are just showing it all. All right,
yeah.
Good for them. I watched the teaser and I was like, oh, their tongue. There's got the tongue and the mouth.
Oh yeah.
Good for them.
Oh yeah.
Wow, Mignon, what a great name. Anyway, on that beautiful note.
Who are we chatting with on Monday, Mary Beth? We haven't recorded with him yet, but who are we chatting with?
We are chatting with creator Mignon. No, I'm just kidding. We are chatting with... No, we are chatting with Aaron Mark, the showrunner and the creator of The Horror of Dolores Roach, and he brought with him the 1982 film Death Trap. We're recording with him tomorrow. It's Wednesday we're recording this, so we'll have this recorded. We're so excited. If you haven't watched The Horror of Dolores Roach yet on Prime Video, please do. It is queer, Latina, stoner, Sweeney Todd, and also about gentrification and the industrial prison complex. And it's just very smart and very good and very fun. And Justine Machado, who plays Dolores Roach, is iconic, and it's just a real good show. And so we're really excited to talk to Aaron about it.
And if you have not seen Death Trap, watch it this weekend.
Which I have not.
Phenomenal. It's based on a play written by Ira Levin, who wrote Rosemary's Baby, the book, who wrote Stepford Wives, the book. Yes. And it is... I don't look up anything about it. Go in blind. It's great. Christopher Reeves, Michael Caine, great. It is a fantastic. I can't remember if I've seen the movie. I've seen the play, and I'm going to talk about this a lot. But it is.
And Aaron is like a theater dude, so y'all will have a good time because Aaron's background is in the theater. So I'm just going to watch you two theater dorks nerd out. It's going to be really fun. I'm very excited.
It's going to be great. It's going to be a fun
I didn't realize Michael Caine was in this.
Oh, yeah. Michael Caine and Christopher Reeve. Don't look up anything.
No, I literally just have it up to watch. It's literally just the cast list on YouTube. Holy shit.
Let me tell you how interesting it is for a 1982 movie. I just cannot wait. It is.
Okay. I'm very excited. Okay, cool. I'm not looking anything up. It's free on YouTube, so I just pulled it up. It's okay. Terry, I'm not doing... Terry, stop yelling at me. Terry, stop yelling at me. Ah! Oh my god.
Seriously, I wanted to reach at the screen and be like, no, put my hands in front of the screen. Don't look up at it.
I know. Yeah, if you are listening to this not watching, Terry almost tried to grab my fucking pigtails through the computer and smash my head. I know. It was really scary. It was like Poltergeist. It was really weird. Well, listeners, on that incredible note, you heard from us. We want to hear from you. There we go. Did you watch or read something that we covered this week and have thoughts? Is there something that we should be watching? Have we missed that we should be on our radar? You can let us know at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe, and help support us on Patreon. We will be bringing that back very soon. But also,
Yes.
in addition to following us on Twitter and stuff, Scarred for Life podcast, and both of us are on Blue Sky. So if you are on there, also follow us there. Because who knows what'll happen with Twitter. You never know anymore. It's a roll of the dice.
It really is. And we're also Scarred for Life podcast on Instagram, if you are so inclined to follow us on Instagram. But thank you to Eric Power for, our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. And thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there. But most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.